Well, happy Monday afternoon to you, Scott Baker.
Here where I am, Mikey, and I know you're down in the deep south, but here in Pennsylvania, the polar vortex is upon us. So it is a frigid Monday. But I am not affected by the weather other than in positive ways, no matter what. So I'm excited to be here and talking today on the lead better about today's field note. And I just threw the weather in there because we talked about it the other day as the thing you shouldn't talk about.
Yes,
That's just
it
for the
did. It
faithful
did
listener.
make me cringe internally.
Yeah,
Like
I knew
if
that
that
it
was
did.
your
Yeah.
effect, it
Yeah,
worked.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the field note number today is 1614, and the title is going to sound organizational, like it's going to sound very sort of pedantic, but I
Yes.
think there's some exciting things in here. So hang with us if you hadn't read the field note. But here's the title: Create internal certifications for team members to showcase their skills.
Right.
Exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean it does sound so
No,
organizational that
yeah, right.
can a
You could
dad?
wait if we stop talking, we could probably audibly hear people yawning.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the fact that on LinkedIn, if you have one of
Hmm.
the certifications that you've added,
Okay.
those certifications on LinkedIn get
Hmm.
crazy amount of reach. So for a social
Hmm.
media manager who's trying to replicate the kind of reach on your post,
Hmm.
nothing beats someone bragging about the certification that they just did. But
Hmm.
it's a paid for play environment, which means that there's a half dozen organizations out there that work with LinkedIn so that this
Hmm.
badge, this certification that you're
Hmm.
getting, that you're bragging about and you're pinning on yourself that you just completed it, are paid through by third party organizations that put this stuff out there for LinkedIn. LinkedIn gives it extra juice, so everyone seems to be happy, but you're paying an arm and a leg. Like if we were an organization that put admired leadership certifications out there,
Hmm.
it is a lot of money on a
Hmm.
monthly basis to keep those things ongoing. Like, and it's
So that it means something. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like $15 a month per person. Like
Per
for so
person. Right.
yeah.
That's a
So
lot.
if you were going to get certified in being the kind of admired leader who uses feedback in the way that admired leaders do, right?
Hmm.
And you
Right.
just wanted to be able to post, I've gone through this certification. By the way, we don't
Yes.
have that, but if that's the
Yeah.
way we set it up,
And it's not, and by the way, we have talked about it because some people do ask about it. Like, I'd like to be certified in this in our
right?
organization, and we would also there. This is not because I'm not actually too familiar with this world. Because in our organization, we have leadership coaches and we have strategic communications advisors and we have people that specialize in talent and other areas. But in the leadership coaching world out there, there's a lot of coaches out there. There are some coaching certifications
Hmm.
that people consider to be significant. Now, I don't think maybe some of our leadership coaches have them, but that's not like something that we look at to determine if we're adding coaches, because our coaches tend to be extraordinarily high level, and it's very hard to find the kind of executive advisor who can operate with the clients that we have. And just because you have a certification would not necessarily matter about whether you're even in the ballpark to be that kind of a person.
Right.
So there are fields and areas where a certification can mean a tremendous amount. But then
Yes.
there's other areas where I think we all go, is that really a thing?
Yes. So Kim Kardashian famously this last week did not pass the California bar exam, right?
Yes.
After passing the baby bar 2 years ago, which allowed her
I was,
to
yeah,
work as an
my wife
apprentice.
shared that with me. And
We need
I'm not,
you should never start this without
did you, did you
having
have to
some
bring it up?
napkins close by.
Did you have to bring that?
Yeah. So
I'm going to need a little time.
you're being a little bit uh, pedantic about it, right? But that's not
Okay.
even the right word. But you're being a little
I get it.
sarcastic about it. But the notion of like that certification of being able to pass
Hmm.
that is a super high bar. A lot of the
Yes.
certifications that we're talking about in this are
Hmm.
so easy and they become so
Hmm.
easy to attain that it might as well be a merit badge on a Boy Scout sash. Which, by the way, I'm not trying to
Hmm.
discount those either, right? but those are things that you could, maybe knock off your list in an afternoon just by helping
Right.
an old lady across the street. But
Well, and first of all, we're going to get to where this field note actually says, here's a cool idea that you could do in your organization that brings it all together. We're dissing some certifications, underlying others, but people do want them. But sometimes it's a thing. And I had mentioned to you earlier, it was interesting. A friend of mine, I was at an event on Friday and Saturday, and he was one of the speakers, and this guy has a PhD and he has a law degree, but he's mainly known as a writer. And if you met him, you wouldn't like the first thing you wouldn't be thinking about is, I bet this guy was a college professor, or, I think maybe this guy is a really good lawyer. You'd probably be like, I think this guy might be the starting defensive tackle for the football team that I like.
Right.
Like that might be your first thing. Now, I think what happens is that for some people saying, I have a PhD or I'm a lawyer is a credentialing thing. In this case, I like a guy that was sitting near me at some point. Somebody had mentioned that to him, like that this guy, and he said, did I hear right that this guy is a lawyer and he has a PhD? And I was like, and I just said, yeah, I don't think he wants you to know that because I think he feels that it actually would like lower your thoughts of him.
Yeah. It's funny because there are some people who stay away from those kinds of accolades intentionally.
Yes, right.
They don't want to be associated with everyone who makes a big deal about those accolades.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, the most brilliant academics that I know, they would never let you call them doctor.
Right.
Like they never even bring that up because that's what medical doctors do. But I'm a PhD, and even then you'd have to search to find it.
Right. So if what we're talking about here is social proof, and some people are very attracted to social proof because you just kind of need it. Other people eschew social truth. Right. That's a value-based thing. For I would guess the majority of people like social proof, like the way that social media has taken off in these days, where your social proof is very minimal, but you do have to have it. We were having a conversation about that earlier as well, that it could make you rich and famous, right?
Yeah. You send a clue. Like I don't even know. I have to actually look and see if on my X profile, let me actually go and see. For a while, as an experiment, I had it's not on there now, but years ago. So in the CrossFit cult that I've been in for 17 years, you can get a level 1 certification as to be able to be qualified to coach and claim that certification. You're not a certified coach. You just have the level 1. You've passed the course. You've gone to some coursework. You've gone through that. So I wouldn't actually say in my bio that I had that, but I used the abbreviation of it, like a CFL1, right? Because that only means something to a very narrow number of people. And I used to keep it in there because I really was like, I actually want to talk and interact with people that might be interested in that, but I actually don't want to distract anybody else that would not care about that at all.
Yeah.
Right. So now, did anybody DM me or engage me on that? Absolutely nobody, right? And eventually I took it down. But I had that certification for 10 years.
Right.
So it was a certification. And I went through that process. I never coached. I did it for my own benefit, around my own education, around my own progress, right? So, but I put that certification some places for a certain reason. Now, people will often get a certification professionally because they know having that badge on their LinkedIn or that reputation in their organization does elevate them, and it's a shortcut to reputation, right?
Yeah.
Which is what you were pointing to.
Right.
So that can be a very good thing. And then the field note opens up that there's just so many areas and so many organizations where there are so many detailed skills in that sort of line of apprenticeship for which there is no external certification.
Right. It seems like if you're going to choose to do that internally, though, you really have to treat it seriously. Like there's
yes, right. It can't just be a one-off.
Well, not a one-off. Like it needs to be handled as if
rigorous.
We think this is important, and the fact that it's one of the most difficult things that you could achieve, right, is Like you're allowing high performers to say they really want to go for that. They want to be in that
Yep.
exclusive club. And then the reward is not necessarily some bigger or better prize. The reward is you're part of that club, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people who really want to strive for those things will think that that's important, provided it's difficult, like intentionally making it difficult. Because
Yes.
difficulty means that it's serious, and then it means something. Then the symbolic
Right.
nature of it could be cheap, but you don't want it to be cheap. You want it to be
Well,
serious.
an analogy in an area where I've not had any proficiency really. For example, in the martial arts, right? There are certain kind of martial arts where somebody can be in it for a while. They get this belt, they become a black belt, and it takes some work, but it maybe doesn't take a decade of work. Whereas in other practices like jujitsu, if you're a black belt in jujitsu, what that says to somebody is, oh, you've been doing this for 15 years every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't hand those out very easily.
Well, is
And
that
so
true of the family that you get it from, the master that you get it from?
that's
Like,
also the lineage. The lineage
right,
of the training is very important in those
right.
spheres.
And so
But
when you say that you have a black belt, the next question for people who know is usually, where did you train? Who trained
exactly
you?
right.
And
Right.
then if it's this discredited group of people, then how does the rest of that conversation go, right? So a lot
Yes.
of people
Yeah.
are like want to stay out of that at all. So it's an environment that kind of self-regulates itself as to
So internally, as you said, if you're an organization, like even in our organization, if we said, maybe we don't have, maybe it's not so important to us if you have an external leadership coaching certification. But if we had an internal process, and by the way, there would be no need for the people that are in our organization as a coach to get that certification internally, because you don't get into the organization unless you're already exceptional. Just
right,
getting into the organization means that you're one of this level of coach already.
right,
So, but we have other kinds of competencies, and it would be there are some where it would be formal but a little less defined. And I kind of thought I saw a thing about the guy in the documentary that's famous of Euro Dreams of Sushi, the Japanese sushi maker. He just turned 100 and he's still in there making sushi. And the whole thing is about the process. And there is a name for it in Japanese sushi culture about how long are you apprenticing before you're even allowed to touch the rice.
right,
There's a specific name for that process. Now, I don't know that you get a belt or a jacket, but you do know, like if you're in airports, and if you're ever in like a Delta concourse and you see somebody in the red jacket, that means that they have a customer service level that was enormously difficult for them to attain. They're actually put through simulations of very complicated scenarios. They have to show, like, they're psychologists and detectives and they are problem solvers world class. And then when you get to wear that jacket, that really means something. And other organizations, Ritz-Carlton has people like that in certain designations. Those are internal, rigorously defined, sort of criteria that you achieve something. It means something to you. Maybe the people that are external, the actual clients, they don't even know what that means, but internally it means a tremendous amount. And that's what the field note is about. What could you do in your own organization to define what mastery really looks like?
right. And it's not necessarily, in some ways it's about defining merit outside of promotion, right?
Yes,
Just because
correct.
you have a position doesn't mean that it's a meritorious based kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to create something that is completely merit based, that's fantastic. Now, the customer service thing, that's great. I'd be fascinated to kind of understand what it takes to actually get the red jacket. Like what
Yes,
levels
right.
you have to go through, what the testing is like, because I want it to show up in leadership, right? That
Mm-hmm.
even though you don't have the promotion and you don't have the title, I can wear the collar that says that
Yeah.
I've put in my paces to show that I'm actually not only have the leadership character, but have the leadership actions under my belt, even
Mm-hmm.
though I don't have the position to be able to show that often. And
Yeah.
the reason that I love it the best is because it defines leadership as something other than position and title. At that point,
Right.
leadership really is about what you do. And so if you can
Mm-hmm.
achieve your leadership shawl based
Mm-hmm.
upon what you do instead of what position you hold, that would be something that would be heavily valued, right?
Now, the
Love that.
hard thing, but let me say, the thing that you've been expert in for 2 decades now is around this nature of sort of what it means to have a message resonate on multiple platforms, including social media platforms. It would be interesting. I don't know that there's like a social media black belt out there, but it'd be interesting what we would think that that would entail, because it's also a fluid environment, right?
Yeah.
It's changing all the time.
Yeah. Criteria number one would be, are you a lifelong learner, right? Because you're going to
Yes.
have to
Okay.
be.
Yeah. How would you demonstrate that? Yeah.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
all right. Got to run.
All right. Thanks very much. Nice to speak with you today. Bye now.